Okay, just so you know, today I don't have my tripod, so it's going to be a bit wobbly, but I've got a nice lady. We're having an interesting discussion about discrimination. You got a bit of an American, no, Canadian accent or
That's
something?
right. Yes, I'm Canadian.
Cool. All right, well, thank you very much for agreeing to this video. So we were talking about discrimination. What is discrimination? And we were going through the example, let's say a hypothetical example, of somebody baking a cake, and a cake that celebrates being homosexual, and let's say it's a Christian who's being asked to make that cake, or a Muslim like myself, and we don't agree with it, and we agree for good reason. We've thought about it. We think it's actually dangerous to society. We're not discriminating arbitrarily. We've got a good reason, right? We really believe there's medical background and everything behind it. What do you think in that case? Should we be allowed to say we don't want to make that cake?
Well, do you think, like, if you make a cake for a heterosexual couple, that cake is celebrating sex between a heterosexual couple, or is it just celebrating love? Because I think the cake celebrates a love and a commitment for two people, and it has nothing to do with their sex life. In fact, a lot of, like, not a lot, but couples don't, we don't know what their sex life is all about anyways, right? They could have a third person in there, there's all sorts of things we don't know, but it is celebrating a commitment of love, and I don't think anybody should have a problem with that.
Yeah, thank you very much for that comment. Let me just, 1 second. Trying to get this a bit more stable. Sorry. Okay, so I support marriages. I think marriages are really important. They're not just about sex.
Exactly.
They're about relationships and building families and things like that, right? And some relationships are healthy, some are not, right? And I've thought about what kind of relationships are healthy. For example, I don't believe in the phrase "love is love," because if you went down that very blanket phrase, then you could say, what about love between a man and a child? What about pedophilia, right? So you have to I think it's important not to have blanket ideas, but actually discuss as we are, thoughtfully, and we don't have to agree, but I think there's a lot of value in just this discussion, polite discussion. Like, I'm not going to force my will on you and me and neither me, right? So what do you think about that? So, like, do you think that having the blanket phrase of love is love and including things like pedophilia might be a bit of a dangerous thing to do?
I think there's different kinds of love. There's there's a fraternity kind of love. There's a pedagogic kind of love. So you can't just say one. There's more than one type of love.
Agreed. Yes, and so we have to be thoughtful about each situation, right? Okay. So we might disagree, if homosexuality is natural or not, right? So in Islam, we say that it's not natural, and there's a lot of scientific evidence to say it's not natural. So, like, for example, this is how, you might not have heard of this argument. Tell me what you think about it, right? So I've got my phone there, and I'm using it for recording videos because it's designed for that. But if I try to use it as a frying pan to cook my eggs on it, would you think that's a good idea?
Well, if you're saying that, are you talking about?
I'm talking about So I'm gonna come to the argument about how do we know what the right function of something is? So, for example, what is the right function of sexual organs? So my argument starts off with looking at something else that we're not.
So what do you think is the right function of sexual organs then?
Sorry, I have to do this. Sorry, I will get better equipment next time. But anyway, so your question was?
Well, what do you think is the right function then?
So we can see the right function of sexual organs in our modern, with scientific knowledge. We can see that it's incredibly well designed, that, let's say, the sperm, when it's being created, it's being coated in a liquid that protects it from being destroyed when it gets into the vagina. There's so many intricate things. I mean, without me going into all the details of the mechanisms, I mean, you might know, hopefully you know something about reproduction system. Would you say it's incredibly well designed for that purpose? You might disagree, but would you agree that it's incredibly well designed for a certain kind of sexual activity that produces a certain kind of result.
I think most people, most of the time, have sexual relations and they don't want to have children.
Okay, no, I'm talking about okay, so I would disagree. I'd say you should try to have children, right? So no, I'm saying what people do and what should they do is a different thing. You know that. Like,
Do you think every married couple, every time they have intercourse, they want to have a child?
I think it helps, right? So actually,
Every time?
so listen, there's so the function is not become nullified just because it doesn't necessarily work at that particular time. Yeah, what I'm saying, I'm asking.
They choose not
I'm just
to.
trying to ask you because I think we're like.
Most couples choose not to have children when they have sexual intercourse. After a certain number of children, they say that's enough, and but they don't stop having sexual intercourse.
Sure. So there's a lot of problems in the West because of population implosion. The fact that people are not having children is a big problem because of that, and so the economic systems are about to collapse because of that. This is quite well known if you study it. So, but I'm trying to stay really focused, especially because my arms begin to ache already, right? So I'm trying to ask like really like direct and simple questions. Like if you look at the design of the phone, let's go back to using the phone as a frying pan. Why would you agree? I'm just trying to get to really simple answers, right? So we can get to achieve some sort of like, argument or something, one way or the other. Would you agree that using a phone as a frying pan is a bad idea?
For a frying pan, but not to learn how to use the frying pan, not for a calculator, not for a camera, not for a music speaker.
Yeah, it's very kind of you.
So there's a lot
it's
of.
actually if you want to hold it and look where it's pointing, thank you very much. I've got a nice guy who's trying to help me out. I appreciate it. Oh, saved my arm. Thank you.
There's
Thank
a
you.
lot of uses of the phone. It's not just for phoning.
But no,
it's hardly ever for phoning. Just like
No.
sexual
But let's
intercourse.
answer the question. I know there's lots of functions of a phone, but
So there's lots of functions for a
yeah,
marriage.
but I feel like. I mean, in a way, it's good that you're avoiding the question because then people can watch that and you can analyze it yourself. I'll send you the video. It's good to think about it afterwards.
Okay,
but I feel like you're
phone
avoiding the question.
I'm not avoiding the question.
Okay, should a phone be used as a frying pan?
No.
Right, okay. How do you know a phone shouldn't be used as a frying pan? Or why is it a bad use?
Because it won't fry anything.
You could actually, it would, but you would destroy the phone, would you agree? Putting on top of a gas cooker.
Sure.
Yeah. So you can see, the point I'm trying to get to, you can actually analyze if something is the right function or not by its feedback and also its design. So you can say, what can you get out of using the phone? And you can look at the design and you can say, oh, I can see that I can record videos. I can get so much out of the phone by doing that. I can make phone calls. I can get so much out of the phone by doing that. But if I use it as a frying pan, I'm going to destroy it. I'm going to have negative feedback. And you get the same with homosexuality, right? That you get a lot of diseases. As I was talking to you earlier on, when in this country you've got the National Health Service. If I want to donate blood, they'll ask me if I'm a homosexual man. It's not because they hate homosexuals.
Heterosexuals can get lots of sexually transmitted. It's not just for homosexuals. Heterosexuals have lots of sexual.
So so also they check if you've been with prostitutes, right? And also I'm against having sex with prostitutes, right? So it's true. So is it because they have a moral system where they say we're Christians or Muslims? Are the NHS Christians or Muslims that say, oh, you shouldn't be a prostitute and you shouldn't have homosexual relationships? No, it's just being plainly scientific. Would you agree that they're being plainly scientific?
I believe that males have a stronger sex drive, and so prostitutes and homosexuals have more sex. So it's a number. So it is scientific.
No, but so is it scientific for them to discriminate against homosexuals and people who have sex with prostitutes when people are donating blood?
Well, your country's a little bit behind with that. When they catch up to the science, you're able to test the blood. So in Canada, they don't do that.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. You could test the blood, right? That's a good point. Okay, but you can see that
you can also get.
I don't know why.
Get diseases from a heterosexual too. You know.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about the prostitute thing, right?
No, it doesn't have to be a prostitute. It can just be anybody.
Yeah, they check the probabilities, and I'm not somebody who, I mean, it's possible they could check the blood, but then it could be a long process that would make it really impossible to pay for the system. Like if you have to do loads of extra checks, okay, and you're trying to reduce the probabilities of the blood being infected, you want to help the service rather than making the service difficult and more expensive so they can help more people, right? That's the idea. So I'm talking about discrimination, when we should and shouldn't have that discrimination, when is it useful. I've talked about ways of checking if homosexuality is natural. Okay, one you can
It
look
is
at.
very natural. You look at societies throughout history. It's very natural.
The societies throughout history have done lots of bad things that make it more natural.
That makes it natural. If it keeps happening,
You know,
it's natural.
pedophilia, isn't pedophilia natural?
I guess it's part of nature.
Okay, this is really good because we're getting somewhere, right? Because then people will make their own conclusion. Because this is often how it ends,
But
right?
you know what, heterosexuals? Why do you keep talking about pedophilia? It's like
No, I'm just giving you an example of something that you don't. Do you like pedophilia? I'm picking it because I'm guessing you don't like pedophilia. Is that right?
that's right.
Okay, so I'm picking pedophilia because that was something that happened in the past amongst the Greeks. Okay, it was commonplace,
happens now.
right? So the fact that it happened in the
It is
past doesn't
natural.
make it any better, right? Okay, so I did.
Heterosexuality is natural.
Yeah.
Homosexuality is natural. It all happens in nature.
Great. So anyway, so we've gone through that argument. Now I had an idea for the video that some of my students asked and a lot of other people are asking that I make. So I'll use what we've said so far as the warm up, and then we'll very quickly go through the actual question, which is should what is often known as the rainbow ideology. Have you heard of the phrase?
No.
LGBT kind of stuff.
I don't know what that is.
Lesbian, gay, transsexual.
Yeah.
That's that stuff, right? Should that be taught in schools? Let's say.
Well, I know what they are teaching
Yeah.
in Canada. They're teaching inclusivity. They're teaching that just because someone belongs to a minority group, like a Muslim or a black person or a lesbian, like gay, like LGBTQ, that you cannot discriminate, you cannot hate them, you have to be inclusive of them. They're not teaching you to be one. They're just saying, we have a lot of minorities. We are a country of immigrants and minorities, and we cannot start acting like we did in the past. We don't want people to be, there's Muslim women walking around. You teach hatred towards Muslims and then they get attacked, okay? So we say, you don't have to be a Muslim. You just have to respect them and not, you don't have to even talk to them, but you can't promote hatred. That's what they're teaching in school. Because right now, like they go to a library where they're having a trans woman is reading a book. Outside the library, there's all these bigots who are screaming and yelling, teaching these children they should hate these women. And if they don't like, if they have a problem, if their religion has a problem with it, they should just leave them alone. If you don't like Muslims, just leave them alone. Just be respectful, because we all share this planet. And if you're a religious person, God gave this planet. God made the homosexuals. God made everything according to you or your religion. And why would you treat God's creations with disrespect?
So I agree with so much of what you said there, actually. So I don't believe, just to clarify, it's really important to say, I don't believe in hating homosexuals at all. So I've been brought up with the idea of love for all, hatred for none, right? So that's a really important point that you made, and I appreciate you made
And
that,
that's what
right?
they teach at school.
Right. So there's a lot of people who are saying they're teaching more than that. They're encouraging the idea that it's natural to be homosexual. It's natural to be able to choose any identity you want. So
They do teach that about heterosexuals. From the day one, you get a little birthday candle, you get a birthday cake. I don't know, in our culture, you blow the birthday candles out. One is left standing. It's like, you have one boyfriend. If it's a girl or if it's a little boy.
is that what they teach in schools? I never heard them teach that in schools.
That's what families, it's everywhere.
Sure. So families, parents.
In the schools my kids went to, they have.
Are you against parents teaching their own children what they think is good for them.
No, but I'm just saying that the people who are anti LGBTQ, they keep saying, "Oh, this is being crammed down our throats." When we every single, almost all the movies you've seen in your entire life have been about heterosexuals. All the images are all around us are all been about homosexuals, and now this is a short time in history that we are not discriminating against this minority, and suddenly all these people are like, "Oh, we're being bombarded by it."
Okay, so basically what it is a choice of what people want to watch. So, for example, Disney tried to promote a lot of this kind of homosexuality on their Disney Channel, and a lot of people like me chose we want to unsubscribe. It's our choice, right? Okay, so that's fine, and yet people can promote those things if they want to, but also there's a communal choice, which is, for example, should we promote what do you call it, pornography on the Disney Channel, for example, right? What do you think about that?
I don't know the Disney Channel.
No, but let's say Disney Channel. The reason why I talk about the Disney Channel is usually geared towards children. You really guess that, right? Yeah. So that's kind of like their brand, things towards children, right? So you would say, I'm sure you would agree that we shouldn't promote pornography on the Disney Channel. Probably not promote pornography anywhere. Would you agree? I don't know if you're against pornography.
No, I'm not. I mean, I think there's a place for it.
Sure, yeah.
Disney wants to have a pornography channel. That's up to them.
Sure, I mean, I'd say they ruin their brand if they did.
Yeah, it's a bad marketing decision.
Yeah,
you know?
And also I think some things are harmful for people, right? So I do think pornography is addictive. It actually is shown to ruin relationships between husband and wife because people get confused about what's actually really valuable, in a relationship.
You can't have the government controlling every single aspect like that.
Sure.
If you want to watch pornography, a lot of people can do it responsibly, I imagine. It's not my thing either.
Okay, so some people can, some people can't. Let's just say, I would say most people should avoid it, just like drugs, because it's intoxicating and confusing. But I would say...
Disney has a right to do that.
No,
Disney wants
fine.
to do that.
Sure. Everybody's got a right to do lots of things, but what we do as citizens of a country, what we do... Hope you're not getting too tired. Are you alright? Oh, you have to keep watching this though. So can you look at it at the same time? Sorry, it's going to be a really weird recording otherwise. Yeah, I'll be like recording down there. I know it's hard work. I appreciate it. Just we're almost done, right? So what we do as a community, as citizens, we say to our government, this is what we think is healthy for society. Some societies say drugs are okay, some drugs are bad, all this kind of stuff. So I would say things like, if we as a society agree, let's say me and you agreed that homosexuality is bad, let's just say in theory, right? Then we could, and we were the only two people in the country, and there was a third person who was the leader, right? It would make sense that our vote should be counted and we say homosexuality is bad, let's ban homosexuality.
Did that. Society did that for
exactly.
a long time, and now finally we decided no, discriminating against these people is bad.
Yeah.
So that's what's happened.
I mean, there are different countries that have different opinions, right?
Well, in Britain or in Canada, if you ran on a platform saying that you were against homosexuality, you wouldn't get elected.
Yeah, maybe I would say that's unfortunate because there's a lot of there's a breakdown in society because
I welcome that discussion out there, because it's the conservatives that are anti homosexuality, and they wouldn't get elected.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing right now, like with the abortion issue in my country. They're trying to sneak the abortion issue into there so that we can be like the Americans. And I'm like, bring it on, these bigoted ideas that they will just make you unelectable.
Well, I mean, it's been a fantastic conversation. I feel like there could be all sorts of interesting conversation. I just want to say, I think despite us completely disagreeing, why it's so nice that we can just agree, discuss, and maybe we don't have to agree on the video itself, but we might think about it over time. I might think about it and go, oh, that was an interesting one. You might. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's good to promote the idea that people can talk nicely to each other. Otherwise, we'll never learn from each other, right? Exactly. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.